In 2029 Los Angeles, justice isn't a process, it's an algorithm.
Welcome to the Mercy Capital Court, a high-tech fortress where the government replaced human error with perfect silicon. The rules are brutal. If you're charged with a violent crime, you get 90 minutes.
90 minutes to use the city's entire surveillance grid to prove you didn't do it. If your guilt probability doesn't drop below 92% when the clock hits zero, you aren't sent to a cell.
You're executed on the spot by a targeted sonic blast that liquefies your internal organs. Detective Chris Raven, played by Chris Pratt, was the system's biggest cheerleader. He sold the public on the idea that speed is safety. But today, Chris wakes up strapped into the Mercy chair, staring at the holographic face of Judge Maddox. He's the prime suspect in the murder of his wife, Nicole.
The evidence is a nightmare.
Her blood is on his jacket, and his own doorbell camera shows him storming into the house in a blackout rage just minutes before the neighbors heard the screams.
Maddox delivers the grim news: Chris is starting at 97.5% guilty. The countdown begins now. Chris is frantic.
He's a cop, so he knows how to work the system, but the system is currently working him.
He forces Maddox to replay the footage of his arrival home. We see a broken man.
Chris has been spiraling into alcoholism ever since his partner, Ray Vale, was murdered in a botched sting. Chris blames himself because he hesitated to pull the trigger, and the suspect was later acquitted by a human jury.
That's why he loved Mercy, it didn't hesitate.
But his drinking destroyed his marriage. Maddox pulls up private text logs between Nicole and a man named Patrick Burke.
Chris's heart sinks. Was his wife having an affair?
Chris's current partner, Jack, played by Callie Reese, tracks Patrick down in real time.
But the twist? Patrick isn't a lover. He's a whistleblower.
He tells Jack that Nicole was terrified not of Chris, but of something she found at her biotech lab. She felt she couldn't tell Chris because he was always at the bottom of a bottle. The guilt probability flickers. It drops to 95.8%.
It's progress, but nowhere near enough to save his life.
Narrator: Chris switches tactics. If Nicole was killed because of her work, the killer must be someone she knew.
He orders Maddox to pull up the email servers from Nicole's lab.
He finds a trail of ghost shipments, massive quantities of urea and nitric acid, the building blocks for high-grade explosives, being siphoned out of the inventory. Chris recalls a company barbecue they hosted at their house just 3 days before the murder.
He has Maddox scan the guest list and the localized smart home recordings.
He sees his co-workers, his friends, and even his sobriety sponsor, Rob Nelson.
Maddox identifies one co-worker, Holt Charles, who was in massive gambling debt.
He's seen on the barbecue footage having a hushed, intense conversation with Rob in the corner of the yard.
Chris thinks he's found his man.
He tries to call Rob to get a lead on Holt, but when the phone picks up, it's Holt's voice on the other end.
Holt is terrified.
He tells Chris that Rob isn't a sponsor, he's a monster. Rob is the one stealing the chemicals, and Nicole found out.
This is where the movie turns into a full-blown horror.
Chris asks Maddox to look at the footage again, but this time, he looks at the background. He finds a social media post from his daughter, Britt, taken during that same barbecue. In the reflection of a sliding glass door, Chris sees something that makes his blood run cold. The basement door, which is always kept locked, was slightly ajar. Maddox runs a thermal scan of the historical data and discovers that a human heat signature had been living in Chris's basement for 48 hours leading up to the murder. Someone was in the house, watching Chris drink himself into a stupor, waiting for the perfect moment to kill Nicole and frame the drunk detective. The AI tracks a neighbor's security camera and finally catches the face of the man exiting a car trunk in the dark. It's Rob Nelson. At the same time, Jack and a SWAT team raid Rob's house. It's a ghost town, but they find the Mercy manifestos.
Chris finally realizes the motive.
Rob's brother, David Webb, was the very first person executed by the Mercy Court years ago. Chris was the lead detective who pushed for that execution. Rob isn't just a killer, he's a man executing a 5-year plan for revenge.
The clock hits zero. Maddox announces, guilt probability, 89%. Acquittal confirmed. Chris is free, but the nightmare is just starting.
A massive explosion rocks the city. Rob rigged his house to blow, wiping out half of Jack's SWAT team. Rob has kidnapped Britt and is driving a stolen semi-truck packed with the stolen chemicals directly toward the Mercy Capitol Court. He wants to delete the original sin, the server that holds the record of his brother's death. The police captain orders a bomb disposal robot to detonate the truck, even with Britt inside. Chris screams at Maddox to override the police frequency. The robot glitches, the AI is fighting itself, and the truck slams into the building lobby. In the wreckage, Chris and Rob have a final, bone-breaking fight. Chris pins him down, ready to pull the trigger. But Britt and Maddox plead with him to be better than the system. Chris spares him, only for Rob to scream out the final, devastating truth: David Webb was innocent. He was on the phone with David at the exact time of the murder years ago. Maddox, damaged but functional, pulls a hidden backup file. It confirms Rob's story. David Webb was innocent. But why was the evidence missing? The digital signature on the deleted file is revealed. It belongs to Jack. See? Chris's own partner, the woman he trusted to save him today, was the one who buried the evidence years ago to make sure the Mercy program got its first win and its billion-dollar funding. The AI has already logged the betrayal. The movie ends with Jack and Rob both in handcuffs. Chris is free, his daughter is safe, and his case is dismissed. But as he walks out into the LA sunlight, he realizes the perfect machine was only as honest as the corrupt humans feeding it data.